Welcome everyone to this member-only BioForward annual member meeting event. As a member-driven organization, BioForward advocates for you. So as a staff and board of directors, we are here to give you an update on our past fiscal year accomplishments, April 2020 through March 2021, as well as give you an update on what to expect in the coming fiscal year. We're also going to have some great presentations from companies and community partners that demonstrates what sets us apart from others. It makes me proud to be in Wisconsin. So BioForward is a collective voice of Wisconsin's robust biohealth cluster. We support our sectors comprising this cluster from research institutions to biotech, to digital health, to medical device and diagnostics, to our healthcare systems. We are action-oriented, and we believe in investing back into our industry and communities to further the overall state economic impact. Our staff and our board are dedicated and proud to represent Wisconsin's biohealth industry. Now this state needs to truly recognize the importance of our industry, not just our current impact, but how we can lead the future of this state. This last year was hard dealing with COVID and facing our challenges with diversity and equality, where we must behave differently. Our industry came through to meet the challenges of COVID, and hopefully our industry can lead by example in recognizing the importance of inclusion and diversity, and how we all will grow as companies and individuals when we embrace equality, diversity, and inclusion. With that, I would now like to introduce Jay Hill, CTO, GE Healthcare, and BioForward's board chair.
Thank you, Lisa. Thanks, Lisa, and welcome to everyone. On behalf of the board of directors, I want to welcome all of our members to this annual member meeting. It's a thrill to be here. It's a thrill to be part of such a vibrant sector of our economy and such a critical part of our healthcare, overall healthcare community. Marissa, if you could go to the next page. So Lisa talked about the fact that we represent you and we represent our business sector to the state and frankly beyond our state's borders. One of the things that we take really seriously as an organization and that we as a board have really helped Lisa and the team think through is what is the value that we bring to our membership. It's really, I often say it's key that we stay focused on member value, and we kind of divide our audiences up into, I'd say, sort of two pools that are very closely linked. One is our primary audience of folks that are engaged directly in biopharmaceutical, bioscience, diagnostic, medical device fields, and digital health, our healthcare system partners, and our research institutions. And those groups, as we talk to them, they identify a set of priorities that are really key for them. Advocacy for us at the state and at the national level as a community, as an industry sector. Also talent, the ability to attract and retain talent, the networking and the connections that go on between all of the organizations that make up this sector. Helping to build the ecosystem around us and the community support around our organizations, education and the access to great education for future and current employees, the ability to help us with cost savings as well in our businesses, and then the ability to market the sector to the world. We also have a set of really important partners that are called our secondary audience on this page, and these are our professional services partners and our supply chain partners that are there with us every day trying to serve our markets and help us grow this sector of our economy. And in those teams, you see some of the same priorities come through around networking, partnering, building those connections, building the ecosystem around the sector, driving that community support, and as well as the education component of what we're doing. So if we go to the next page, this year, we took the opportunity to kind of regroup a bit and reset our strategy for the organization. And it's aligned around 3 goals. Each of them has a set of objectives, and then you'll see some actions that the team is undertaking to be able to achieve those objectives. And the 3 goals are stated here. One of them is to deliver immediate and long-term value to the members of this organization, to our biohealth members and our associate member organizations. The second one is to position this cluster, this special thing that we have going on in Wisconsin around biohealth and med tech, for a sustainable long-term growth, for the sustainable and long-term growth of this sector. And then the third one is to promote the attractiveness of this region, the strength of this cluster on both the local and the regional stage, as well as national, and then even on the international stage, and to make the rest of the world aware of what we have here and what capabilities we can bring. So we go to the next page, please. Underneath those, and we don't have to go into every one of these in detail, but you should know that under each of these three priorities are a set of actions, just a few key actions that we're undertaking as a group. And those are going to map to some action groups that I'll talk about in just a minute. But for example, on value to member organizations, we think our summit and that connection that we bring in the summit is a key value. There's also a purchasing consortium that many of our members use to help keep the cost of their indirect materials down and find some discounts there. There's talent and promotion events. We do in positioning the cluster. We do things with legislative advocacy, supporting the state's biohealth strength, and working with our education partners to help enhance educational opportunities. And then on the promoting the attractiveness of the region, we do a lot to raise the awareness, the recognition, the visibility of this region. We expand with partnerships and other organizations that I think Lisa will talk about a bit later, and how we partner with other similar organizations. And then sharing the capabilities and the successes of our members. You know, this last year, the year of COVID, was a challenge for just about everyone, right? But it also was an opportunity for a lot of the teams in our organizations to shine. And we've had the pleasure of being able to bring that news and tell those stories to the wider world, so that they can get some appreciation for what their friends and neighbors and colleagues have been doing to help. So the letters below talk about some of the talent acquisition group, or some of the action groups that we have. Maybe if we go to the next page, though. The way we've organized the board to help support Lisa and the team is in a few areas. One is we have a government affairs committee, which has 3 board members and 13 member company members on that. And then we have 4 board action groups, one on education, one on talent acquisition, one on industry promotion, and one on member engagement. And those action groups are the ones that are actually leading the work in the strategic priority actions that we talked about on the previous page. Next page, please. So the role of the board in BioForward, you may wonder, what do you guys do? There's really 5 things, right? One, and I think at the top of this wheel here, for good reason, is fiduciary responsibility to members. So we oversee budgeting, budget appropriations, and the sort of the finances for the organization to make sure that we keep a healthy organization and are able to maintain our mission. We provide governance by a set of bylaws, and we meet frequently to be able to decide on matters that are board reserved matters. We provide guidance to Lisa through board action, through the discussions that we have. There are quarterly board meetings that allow us to vote on items that require those votes. And then we're all members of the action groups, which you saw on the previous page. We're a part of that. We're actively engaged in helping to move those priorities forward. Go to the next page, please. So part of our board is our executive committee. And I'm joined on that with Nicholas Paris, who's our past chair and CEO of Gilson. John Dennison from PPD is our treasurer. And then Lisa Beagle from Covance is our secretary. And we provide a bit more direct guidance to Lisa and talk to her about some of the more operational matters that are required to run the organization well. It's a thrill to be part of this team. This is a great group of people to be on an executive committee with. And then our larger board is on the next page. And you can see a really good representation of across our industry, including our academic partners, including some of our agencies, including some of our supply chain partners. And so I'd love to read everybody's names, but I think we want to continue going. Please take a look, recognize your peers. This is an awesome group of people. We have really, I think every year we find more eager, committed, active board members than the previous year. And every year we think it's going to be difficult to outdo the previous year. And I would say we've had a great track record of bringing on some outstanding folks who really are invested in this community and invested in this sector. So it's again, a pleasure to serve on the board with this group. We also have a number of partners that help us run the organization, that help Lisa and the team with professional services. in advocacy, legal matters, insurance, banking, managing 401k for the executive team. Please recognize them and patronize them. They've been a great help to us, and they really help Lisa and the team keep things moving very smoothly in the organization. Okay. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Lisa, and I hope you all enjoy the annual member meeting. Lots going on in our industry. We have been essential to, as most of you know, essential to getting the country and the region through the recent events of COVID. And I think we're showing what value we have to our community and actually showing the economic value that we bring to the state. So thank you all for everything that you do, and off to you, Lisa.
Great, thanks. I was trying to hop on before I was supposed to. All right, you can go to the next slide, Risa. Well, again, thank you so much, Jay. He's done such a great job, and I will just say he is absolutely right on. We have a fantastic board, and the executive committee has been awesome to work with, really helping guide our organization, so thank you. With our key activities, we were focused on the talent pipeline and sharing to the world the accomplishment of our member companies. We did this through our talent campaign that included efforts on educating and uniting around equality, diversity, and inclusion. We did public relations campaign. We are uniting and connecting resources and companies to address the pandemic, and local, regional, and international partnerships that are so critically important to our long-term growth. We cannot just live in our Wisconsin bubble. We must think differently and continue to expand our collaborations beyond Wisconsin, regionally, nationally, and internationally. And you can see those partnerships that we have listed there at the bottom of that slide. Next slide. So on our talent initiative, and again, Jay also kind of talked briefly about all of this, is that we began our talent investment back in June 2019, and you'll see more of this information in our annual report. And we're continuing that investment with dedicated landing pages, social media advertising, new enhanced content strategy, including member profiles and blog posts. And again, much more of these statistics, more information are in our 2020 annual report that you can find on our website under About Us. Next slide. But we knew we needed to do more to gain greater regional and national visibility. So we began an additional investment in 2020 to position Wisconsin as a central hub for biohealth excellence. Our PR firm, Chartwell Agency, pitched member and industry-specific stories to media. We have had millions of impressions, and BioForward or our members have been featured in over 60 stories. Next slide. But we needed to do more. We needed to do more to help uplift our communities that retain and attract talent. We know the importance of health and wellness, STEM education, and organizations that keep our communities vibrant. When we all show we're committed to one another, the talent we are seeking wants to be part of that community, enjoy that quality of life. So this is a listing of all the entities we contributed to in this last year. Next slide. Yeah, and we cannot discuss this last year without mentioning COVID that had the greatest impact of all. Thank you to all of our members who responded with their creativity, pivoting to new product lines, and collaborating to meet the challenges of this horrendous pandemic. Next slide. We held 3 United Against COVID education sessions this winter to increase awareness about the benefits of vaccines and 2021 updates about our industry's effort to fight the pandemic. You can see we had a lot of people that came onto these sessions, and we were really proud. This is where the virtual event, although I like in person, this is where the virtual event works well because we really could hit statewide, and it was really awesome to see people coming from all over the state to listen to these sessions. Next slide. So as with our commitment to COVID, BioForward in our industry must be committed to EDI strategies and create an ecosystem where invested parties can participate and ensure we have positive EDI outcomes. BioForward will continue to work with our companies and partners like Bio to implement pillars of change with health equity, expanded opportunities for women and other underrepresented populations. BioForward continued to increase diversity on its board, staff, and through its activities, including our events. We demonstrated that commitment during our 2020 summit. Next slide. So as Jay said in his presentation, we are positioning this industry for growth. We do this through facilitating these interrelationships that drive collaboration. And we're very proud of our advocacy efforts during the pandemic, where we fought for essential worker status, liability protection, and vaccine eligibility. We partnered with Flugen and Pfizer in educating our legislators so they could educate their constituents on the benefits of vaccines. Our purchasing consortium, along with fantastic partners like Fisher Scientific, last year brought $28 million in cost savings to our participating companies. Our partnerships that can position our industry for long-term growth by providing educational and networking opportunities. So two updates I have. I did have a call with Bio-Quebec yesterday, and we discussed several areas of collaborations, including being involved in a platform that the Canadian government has funded to make it easier to connect companies and research institutions to one another in order to advance partnerships, research, and product line development. Our second update is hold October 7th for the 2021 BioHealth Summit. Right now, we are in person at the Overture Center. So hopefully people keep getting vaccinated and we get through this pandemic so we can meet once again in person, and just be watching for Lisa because she'll probably be trying to hug everybody that day. All right, next slide. So with BioForward's work, we also need to invest in promoting. So we have positioning and promoting. And we are promoting our industry, our diversity of capabilities from our industry sectors, as well as our community partners that make our companies and research institutions successful. Our architects, our engineering firms, our construction companies, attorneys, insurance, accounting, banking. Thank you. You're critical partners to our biohealth companies. We need to keep building our ecosystem by supporting organizations like Forward Biolabs that has been an amazing asset in supporting young bioscience companies that are essential in contributing to long-term economic growth and attraction of talent, investments, and partnerships. And we're currently working on a new website design, and we've already updated our advocacy page, but be watching for the full launch around July this year. Next slide. This is my final slide. For much more information on our industry, please read our 2020 economic impact study that we invested in with support from WDC. And we have information on our website that companies can utilize in their marketing to utilize some of the different statistics and data that are in that report. Our annual report is also on our website under About Us, again, giving you more details and data on this last fiscal year. So that's it for Lisa, and now I'd like to turn it over to John Dennison, Senior Vice President for PPD and Treasurer of the Board.
Thanks, Lisa. Hello, everyone. I'd like to take some time to give the membership a brief overview of how BioForward finances are managed. Financial management of our organization is based upon a separation of responsibilities so that no single individual is responsible for the entire process. Each year, our CEO, Lisa, prepares a budget that's reviewed and approved by the board, and then she manages that budget with her staff throughout the year. We also have an external accounting firm, Baker Tilly, that provides financial guidance to us, as well as also preparing our annual tax return. Our day-to-day accounting is done by an external accountant, Cheryl Connor, and finally, the board executive committee provides financial oversight by monthly reviewing the finances for the organization. Next slide, please. The BioForward budgeting process begins each February. Our CEO, Lisa, drafts a budget that's reviewed, sometimes modified, and then finally approved by the board in March. And then our fiscal year begins in April. The CEO submits a financial report monthly to the board executive committee for review and approval. And then on a quarterly basis, we get the entire board together to review financials as well as review our initiatives and other topics for the meeting. As we begin our new financial year and in the previous financial year, I'm happy to report to the membership that BioForward continues to be very well managed financially. Our funding is exceptionally strong, our expenditures are within budget, and we've built a very strong operating reserve. In fact, we're in such a good financial position that the board made a decision in December of 2020 to increase our operating reserve to help the organization withstand any unforeseen circumstances that we might encounter as the pandemic continues on. Next slide, please. So for the fiscal year that has just ended, BioForward took in $1.345 million in revenue from membership, our purchasing consortium, our events and other programming, and in-kind contributions. Our expenses totaled $990,000, a little over $990,000, primarily operating costs and the cost of the various initiatives and events that BioForward undertakes. That has left us with a surplus of nearly $360,000. Next slide, please. So due to our low fixed costs, our lower operating costs due to the pandemic, we end the fiscal year with a very healthy surplus. And that essentially allows us to continue on with all the investments that Lisa described that are important to our membership and really make BioForward the effective organization that it is. So with that, Lisa, I'll turn it back over to you.
Great, thank you so much, John. It's great to also work with John being treasurer. So thank you to all of our sponsors for today's event. We truly appreciate the support that BioForward, that you allow us, that can continue to advocate and invest back into Wisconsin's biohealth industry. And one announcement before our presentations, we are very excited to announce that we are adding a staff member to better serve our members. On May 10th, Mohammed Samaro will be joining our team as member experience and program coordinator. He is incredibly intelligent and delightful, and I know he will be a true asset to our team and to our members. So with that, I think I'm handing this now over to Chad Eschler of Findorf, who is sponsoring the next presentation by Elizabeth Wright. So there you go, Chad.
All right, here we go. Look at it, so far technology's working, right? Well, I drank 2 pots of coffee today and had a bunch of Red Bulls to try and keep up with Lisa's energy. So hopefully I don't talk too fast. But I just wanted to take this time to say on behalf of the 1,000 women and men at Findorf, thank you for this last year, for protecting us, for continuing to boost our economy. Everything that the companies on this call are doing, we really appreciate. When we have the opportunity to work with you, you know, it's more than about the building. It's about what happens inside. It's the research. It's the attraction of new people to the area, the attraction of talent, the discovery that's going on that matters most. And that's why we changed our motto. You may not have noticed, but our motto used to be Builders since 1890. But now we changed that to Building and Beyond. We've been honored to build for 130 years, but it's more than that. Again, it's about what happens after we build that matters most. From a 1,000 square foot lab to a research campus, our employees take extreme pride in working on these projects that they understand will impact all of our lives. And speaking of impact, I'm honored to introduce Dr. Elizabeth Wright, UW-Madison Professor of Biochemistry and affiliate with the Morgridge Institute for Research. Today, she'll be talking about the National Center on Imaging, which is doing amazing stuff and honestly transferring medicine. So Dr. Wright.
Thank you, Chad. I really appreciate that introduction, and I thank you all for letting me have the time to present a little bit about what we've been building at UW-Madison. So I was recruited to UW-Madison almost 3 years ago to build a cryo-EM resource on campus, not only to serve our campus community, but also to really begin to establish this network of cryo-EM centers throughout the state. And so cryo-electron microscopy is arguably one of the fastest moving structural biology technologies that in the world, and it has great implications for drug discovery research. Arguably, we have all benefited from cryo-EM this year because the SARS spike protein was solved by cryo-EM in early 2020. And so that revolutionary structure allowed investigators to rapidly generate, understand the spike structure, and then be able to generate the vaccines that we have benefited from. So this technique allows us to really look at macromolecular complexes in their most native state, so we can advance medicine, cell biology, and other biomedical sciences. Now, in building a cryo-EM center on campus, we couldn't have done this without really partnering with Findorff and a number of architectural and engineering firms. And so this was a significant renovation project that took almost a year to complete with the design and the build process. And so centrally located on the UW-Madison campus is the biochemistry complex. And so with this renovation, we totally renovated 3 spaces in this complex to house these very environmentally and tightly controlled spaces that we need for the instruments to operate at their best performance levels. So we really appreciate working with Findorff on this. This was an exciting project for me and my team. And so this is what it looked like in 2019. We had microscopes in crates, and the room where the Krios, our centerpiece microscope, was housed, would be housed on the lower left-hand panel. You know, we just started the renovation project. And then in early April 2020, so when many people were sheltering at home, we were able to continue with our renovation and installation project to get these microscopes online so we could really begin to push biological and biomedical research in the state. So I'll show you a little bit about how long it takes for them to put a microscope in place. So here we worked with Reynolds company in Madison, and so they were our rigging company that brought the microscope in, set it on its anti-vibration platform, working with the engineers from Thermo Fisher. And it was truly a spectacular feat to see this microscope, which is about 3,000 pounds, being manipulated and put onto this platform. So there's basically the microscope, and I'll run to the next one. And so this facility houses 4 electron microscopes: the Titan Krios, which I've shown you, which is the centerpiece microscope, a Talos Arctica, a Talos 120 kV microscope, a cryo-FibSim, and then a cryo-clem system. And so the scope of this project inside of a pandemic was not small. You know, we continued with the renovation project and the installation of these microscopes. We also onboarded multiple staff scientists, commissioned all these instruments for use, along with computational servers, storage servers, developed the workflows that then we could bring to the biomedical research community and benchmark the tools. So a little bit about what this looks like. So apoferritin is just this rock complex that we use to baseline the instruments. And so in the Titan Krios in early fall, we benchmarked this system. And so we were hitting about 1.87 angstrom resolution. And so this, for those of you who may be, you know, in the science world, we can actually begin to see the side chains off of the amino acids. And so this is really exciting and shows us that this microscope can really perform well for any sample we'd want to introduce into it. So one of the other tools that we're really quite excited about having, and this will really push the envelope for cell biology research, is the cryo-FibSim. And so cells are inherently very thick, and so we can't image them all the way in the electron microscope or the transmission electron microscope. And so here on the left-hand side, you can see cells that are grown on these grids. So these are HeLa cells, but they're so thick, we can't image all the way through them. So what we do in this instrument is use the focused ion beam to mill them down to just a few hundred nanometers thick, transfer them back into the transmission electron microscope, and image them on that platform. But if cells have regions that are thin enough for us to image through, we're really interested in working with people at the Weissman Center and other groups to understand, neurodegenerative diseases, other things related to neurobiology. We can actually grow and culture primary neurons from mice or rats or Drosophila onto EM grids, plunge freeze them, so they're vitrified, and then we can image them in the electron microscope. And so here you're seeing some neurons that have been spread onto this grid, and then we're getting ready to image them. So I'll show you a movie. If anyone here has had a CT or an MRI scan, you know that you're imaged by the scanner, and then the radiologist generates the 3D map of your particular organ that they're interested in investigating. And so we can do the same thing with a cell, where we take this, what we term a tilt series, and then we reconstruct that 3D volume, actually using the same technology that's used in CT or MRI scans. So here we are slicing through that neuron, and you can see all the architecture of that particular cell. So this is very, very powerful in thinking about looking at disease states of cells and understanding how we can develop novel therapeutics to treat them. So I have a great team at UW-Madison that I work with within the resource, but we also collaborate heavily with investigators all over campus, the Morgridge Institute, and we're developing partnerships with the medical college in Milwaukee. So here's our website with our handy nanoscale Bucky Badger that we fib milled with the cryofib. So we were actively engaged with partnerships with industry as well to develop technologies and advance their research initiatives. So we really couldn't have done this without support from the Morgridge Institute, Biochemistry, WARF, and UW-Madison. And again, thank you for the time today. I appreciate spending it with you. Yep.
That was incredible, Dr. Wright. I'm very excited about the cryo-EM technology. Thank you. So my name is Cecilia Hillard. I'm the Associate Dean for Research and a faculty member in pharmacology at the Medical College of Wisconsin. I'm also a member of the BioForward Board of Directors, and certainly would like to add my enthusiastic support for the many things that BioForward has done for the state of Wisconsin. It is my great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, who is also a member of the Medical College of Wisconsin family. Her name is Maureen Busalaki. Maureen's been at MCW for many years as a program director in the Advancing a Healthier Wisconsin Endowment. However, before that, she was the executive director of Health First Wisconsin, which was formerly known as Smoke Free Wisconsin. And she worked on public health policy issues, particularly advocating for the prevention of smoking and smoke-free air laws that we now enjoy so well now. So thank you, Maureen, for joining us. Look forward to your talk.
Great, thank you, Dr. Hillard. Good afternoon, I'm Maureen Busalaki with the Advancing a Healthier Wisconsin Endowment. My work now focuses on building partnerships and programming. I'm going to today give you a quick snapshot of the endowment, a sense of the impact that we are having as an organization, and ask that we stay connected with you. As we move to the next slide, I'm going to talk about who we are. The Advancing a Healthier Wisconsin Endowment is a statewide philanthropy based at the Medical College of Wisconsin School of Medicine. We were established by MCW as a result of a gift to the school from the conversion of the Blue Cross Blue Shield Wisconsin, and a peer endowment was also established at the UW School of Medicine and Public Health. We hold a unique space in philanthropy nationwide. We sit within a private institution. Our funds were gifted to MCW to steward on the behalf of the people of Wisconsin. Today, we continue to steward these funds for the purpose of improving the public's health. We averaged $16.6 million in annual funding awards. After our first funding awards in 2004, we've invested more than $283 million into nearly 500 projects across the state. These projects are reaching counties with the poorest health outcomes and are bringing new research studies and treatments to Wisconsin. And they're creating programs that are training future health, science, and the public health workforce. On the next slide, I'll talk about how we work. Our goal is to support those who are working to improve health through 4 main pathways: basic, clinical, and translational research, population health studies, health education and workforce development, and systems change to improve health. AHW's work to create opportunities to invest in these partners through grants, but we also go beyond. We develop programming and build partnerships that will support our partners to improve health in Wisconsin. And the next slide will show what we do across all of our work. We take what we call a cells to society approach in our investments in programming, looking at how we can engage and support partners impacting health on the basic science, cellular level, all the way through population health and impacting systems that make health, good health, possible and sustainable for all. We offer funding opportunities for community-led projects, which require a community organization as the lead applicant and an academic partner within the MCW School of Medicine. We also offer funding opportunities for MCW-led projects by principal investigators at MCW. And they work with co-investigators and collaborators that may include faculty, staff, students, and others, as well as institutions outside of MCW. I've outlined our impact on the next slide. The impact of the projects we have funded across those pathways is improving health in communities across the state in new ways. In building the healthcare workforce, we have created an innovative 3-year medical school curriculum that have launched the MCW regional campuses and are supporting the critical need to address the healthcare workforce shortage in rural Wisconsin. In tackling disparities in cancer, we have made a $20 million commitment to bring MCW researchers together with community health leaders in a community cancer society network. This network partners, they are leading projects that will work to address Wisconsin's significant racial and ethnic disparities in breast and lung cancer. And our Advancing a Behavioral Health Initiative is a $20 million 8-year commitment where we have brought together 10 community-led organizations across the state that are working to address pressing behavioral and mental health needs of their communities. Continuing on the next slide, I'll outline our COVID response. In late March 2020, we announced a funding opportunity and rapidly, within 3 weeks, instead of the usual 6 to 12 months process that we work to get funding out, and we turned around an application cycle and in early April 2020 announced awards of nearly $5 million in funding to 17 projects. We funded statewide, Milwaukee area, northern Wisconsin, central Wisconsin. The key impact areas were supporting strategic messaging, educational campaigns, and outreach to highly impacted and vulnerable populations, led by the Wisconsin Hmong communities, tribal communities, and communities of color. We supported production and resourcing of PPE for healthcare providers, including 3D printing of PPE in Milwaukee and central Wisconsin, and distribution of PPE for nursing home workers. In healthcare access and social service resources, we scaled up the 211 across the state, leveraging that network in united ways across the state, implementing a telehealth infrastructure with free and charitable clinics where none existed. In technology and data innovation, we supported daily and weekly reports and surveillance of COVID for Milwaukee County to give decision makers the data they needed. We also support plasma collection and treatment. We continue to look at how we can support Wisconsin's response and recovery through additional funding awards, like you can see here, and bringing together Wisconsin's funding community with key leaders in response to identify where can philanthropy do the most good. On the next slide, I'll talk about how to engage with us. You can certainly be a partner on applications for funding. You can be part of the AHW review team. Our funding is awarded through a rigorous multi-step review process with external reviewers. And we host events throughout the year that are an opportunity to learn and engage with those who've been funded through our investments and build collaborations. We can quickly look at the details on the review process on the next slide. These include both desk and merit review panels. The call to serve on the merit review panels is open. We keep that open year round. And it's not only an opportunity to help us identify promising projects and work, but it's an opportunity for you to understand how we review projects and how we award funds. On the next slide, you can stay connected through social media. And on the last slide, you can see my contact information for more questions. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk with you today.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Tim Cleary with Ideal Builders. We're honored and privileged to be not only a member, but serve the needs of members in BioForward. We work on projects as small as $1,500 or as large as $80 million. And today I have the distinct honor of introducing Christian Harold of Teel Plastics. Christian is the Director of Growth Strategies, and he's here today to talk to us about how Teel Plastics, a building we built coincidentally, how Teel Plastics has managed through this pandemic. Christian, the stage is yours.
So, good afternoon, everybody. I was asked to talk a little bit today about how Teel, who's a supplier of medical devices, pivoted and managed through the pandemic. And I'm going to say at this point, I don't have time to take questions. So if people do have questions, if they put them in the chat, I'll try to respond in the time that's left. But I thought the best way to try to focus this talk would be, if you advance to the next slide for me, please, would be to talk a little bit about this swab in particular, out of the suite of swab products that we manufacture, and looking back to what was going on in March of last year. If you go to the next slide. So on March 6th, we get a call from one of our oldest customers. We've been doing business with this group for over 40 years at this point. And they let us know that we are molding a nasopharyngeal swab. It is the only FDA-approved test swab used for diagnosing COVID. They've been in conversations with the White House. They expect the Defense Production Act to be invoked, and that as of right now, we cannot shut this machine down, ever. And this is a Friday going into a weekend shift, so we basically scramble, move things around, get the line booked out, get people lined up to run this line 24/7. And that the intention now is that this line will not ever shut down. And I will say we have been running this line 24/7, 365 since then. So if you go to the next slide. At this time also, you know, COVID's getting out in the community and there's starting to be questions about reaction and how you'd handle that. So March 10th, we put a policy in place, put a couple of policies in place involving extra cleaning of our facilities, of machines, trying to handle that. We suspend any visitors who aren't essential, and we give all of our employees an escalation process if they're symptomatic or if they're near people who have symptomatics, so that we're able to react if something like that happens. I've moved to the next slide, please. March 11th, the next day, we take the step of assigning everyone who has a cell phone and a work computer that they are now required to bring them home and required to take them with them if they are traveling more than an hour from home, because we don't know what things are going to be like, and we can't afford to not have the full team in communication if they're needed. 2 days later, we suspend any interviews and any on-site interviews, any on-site visitors of any kind. If you advance to the next slide, March 16th, so we are not even 2 weeks from the initial phone call, and we deploy work from home on a rotating basis for all support departments. So people who have computers and setups are working with IT to order monitors. We're getting WebEx set up. We are disallowing in-person meetings in the building, and we are having everyone on a rotating basis working from home so that, for example, only half of the QA department is in the building at a time, so that if somebody does get sick, we are able to continue to manufacture to be able to keep the lines running that we need to keep running. If you go to the next slide, please. March 17th and 18th, over a 2-day period. This is when we are made aware that any shelter-in-place orders potentially would be locally enforced. And so we work with the city of Baraboo, which is where we are located, our manufacturing facilities are located, and Sauk County, which is where city of Baraboo is. And we make sure that although we consider ourselves to be essential, the people who would be enforcing shelter-in-place orders also consider us to be essential. Huge thanks as part of that to Mayor Mike Palm, Police Chief Mark Schaaf, and County Health Officer Tim Lawther, who all worked with us to make that determination. Next slide, please. So this is just a quick recap of that. Not even 2 weeks have gone by. We've fully rearranged production staffing. We're purchasing cleaning supplies. We're adding procedures. We've changed all of our visitor policies. We're still needing to replace employees, even though we are not allowing on-site interviews, which was a bit of a challenge for HR and for shift supervision. We found a way to manage to get that to work. We've gotten staff buy-in for work accessibility and work from home. We've rolled out remote work for all of our departments, and we've gotten buy-in and cooperation from local government agencies who would be working with us to be sure we can keep our facility open. Excuse me, if you go to the next slide. So at this point, excuse me, a little bit more about Teel. Founded in 1951, we have about 340 total employees, about 430,000 square feet of manufacturing space, some ISO certifications for medical device and other. And really, if you advance, please. The real thing I'm going to focus on here is that we have an ability to bring enormous amount of talent and resources to bear on challenges. So we like to rise to challenges and get things done. And that's something that we did in this case with full support from the people that are working for us. Next slide, please. A little bit about some of the products that we make, because I'm assuming we're not as familiar maybe as some of the other organizations here. So we're a leader in precision extrusion and injection molding of swabs. We have, excuse me, we're a recognized leader in solving technical solutions and working to high volume production, and we focus primarily on highly regulated markets, things like medical device. Next slide. We also have an analytical lab, which is certified to 17025, focusing on polymer processing and reverse engineering product development, so we can work relatively quickly to get new products up and developed. Next slide. So going back to basic information about Teel Plastics, we're celebrating our 70th year in business this year. We have about 340 total employees and 430,000 square feet under roof for manufacturing space. I'd like to point out, at least for those two, last year we had less than 300 employees, and we only had 3 facilities in Baraboo instead of the 4 that we currently have. And so that scale up only did happen in response to what was going on with COVID-19 and production requirements. To go to the next slide. So one of the things that happened related to that was this DoD award. This was to allow us to add 9 injection molding machines to be able to meet the new requirements for COVID-19 test kits. This was awarded in October. We were expected to have all machines in and validated by March. We'll go into that a little bit later on, but in order to be able to actually do this, we needed more space in our headquartered manufacturing facility. So if you advance to the next slide, around the time that this happened, we also moved lines out of our current facility to a new facility that we leased, which was basic open warehousing space at this point, and we retrofitted it in order to be able to be used for pipe production, which was the easiest operation that we had in order for us to move to a different facility. So we went from broom clean to production ready between 1st of November and February 1st. If you go to the next slide. This is a picture of that. So we already had machines in and ready for production on January 27th for this new facility, and that involved a tremendous amount of coordination between landlord, contractors, employees, internal, external, finding people who could work within our COVID restrictions and were willing to engage in our safety procedures to get this facility retrofitted and ready to go. And while we were running this, we also still had those other injection molding machines that needed to be brought in and validated in our new facility. So if you advance to the next slide, sorry for the crudity of these pictures. This is just going to walk through the speed with which we took what was our entire raw material storage area and started to add in injection molding machines. You can see in the distance coming forward as we went from when the first machine arrived post-grant to where we were at the end of March with all machines, all 9 new machines installed and ready to go. End results of that, so that everyone's aware, since 3/6 of 2020, we've made over 1.2 billion swab sticks. We are able to, at this point, produce 200 to 300 million a month. For those of you who don't have a good idea of how much that is, when I tried to do the math, it's something like 100,000 miles of swab sticks if you laid them end to end. And I know there's a lot of focus on the swab stick production because of the criticality of that device, but we also have several other lines making critical medical device components that we're running at or near capacity. And that includes things like breathing support apparatus, hygiene kits for people who are on ventilators, packaging components for people who need surgery, just a tremendous diversity of devices that are all needed to be run, that all got pulled in a pretty high demand once COVID-19 really started to happen. And this is an area where we're continuing to invest in our capabilities in this space, and we're working to continue to manufacture new diagnostic test kits, not just for COVID, but for a variety of other diseases as well. And we're really doing that through application of our people and our technical resources to try to have that be ready to bear. So that's it for me for the presentation. I know I went through that pretty fast, but as I said, if anyone has questions, they can feel free to reach out, or if they send a message in the chat, I will try to answer that during the remainder of the meeting.
Hello, my name is Garrett Peterson, and I'm the Chief Strategic Officer at Yahara Software. I'm proud to serve as a BioForward board member as well. The talent and Midwestern work ethic of citizens of Wisconsin are recognized and envied everywhere in the country. One of the main reasons we decided to establish our company here in Wisconsin is the exceptional skilled workforce that we can employ here. I think a big reason that our workforce is so strong is the strong base of exceptionally quality higher learning institutions that call our state home. At BioForward, we feel it is important to make it a part of our mission to collaborate with our academic institution partners to promote building the educational foundation necessary to ensure that Wisconsin continues to be a place where scientific and biohealth businesses thrive. I'm proud to introduce you to Liz Taylor today. Liz is the Director of STEM at the Milwaukee School of Engineering. She began her career as a mechanical engineer and then brought that experience to MSOE to establish the STEM program in 2014. Since then, she has made incredible progress in building this critical program at MSOE, and as a result, more than 14,000 kids have been exposed to STEM careers. Her progress with this program is recently recognized by the Milwaukee Business Journal, who proclaimed her as one of their 40 under 40 winners. BioForward is extremely proud to support Liz and the STEM program at MSOE, and now I'm honored to turn you over to her to give some details of their work and the amazing impact it has.
Thanks so much for the introduction, Garrett. And hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm going to get right into it, sharing a little bit about MSOE STEM programs, as well as the greater Milwaukee STEM ecosystem. So you can head to 2 slides forward, I think. Yep, excellent. So first of all, thank you so much. BioForward helped us serve over 2,100 students in the last school year, and that was with our school year ending at March with the pandemic. So thank you so much. Your financial support for the last few years has made that program possible, and we serve a little over 6,000 students a year. So this program is a significant chunk of what we do to bring STEM directly to students and into classrooms. Next slide, please. So I won't read our mission, but for those who may not be aware of our STEM outreach efforts that started in 2017, I just want to provide some context. And if there's anything you take away from this slide, I hope it's the last few lines, which is we're doing this as a community service. We want to get more students excited about STEM. And if they come to MSOE, that's fantastic. But if they don't, that's okay too. Giving students that opportunity to learn whether or not STEM is for them, connecting it with careers, and understanding what a future in STEM looks like is our goal. Next slide, please. And so what this looks like is when we say K through 12 programs, we really do mean K through 12. We work with kindergarten students all the way through seniors in high school through a variety of programs. Those programs take place throughout the academic year as well as during the summer. So we are busy year round. And our programs are run by MSOE students, faculty, and staff. They're run by community members, and we have a lot of partnership-driven programs. So not just partnerships like BioForward has had with us in providing financial support to make programs possible. Your support actually makes that program free of charge to high-needs schools. But also partnerships with groups like Boys and Girls Clubs, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and different groups that are looking for STEM experiences that they could use a little bit more expertise than maybe a troop leader or volunteer could provide in their group normally. And I won't talk too much about the chart, but just giving some context that we started in 2017. I left engineering and came over to help start up that department. And you can see we've really focused on growing our community impact. Next slide. This is just a quick snapshot of the different programs we offer throughout the year. So again, K through 12, academic year and summer, just to give kind of a highlight of what we do. I won't talk about a lot of our programs in depth. If you'd like to learn any more, I'll have my contact information a little bit later and can answer questions in the chat as well. Next slide. So kind of like a lot of others that have spoken today, the big question is, what about the pandemic? I get asked this a lot, especially since our programs are so hands-on, in-person focused. And despite what's been a really hard year for a lot of us that are providing community in-person programs and students are largely virtual, we've had a lot of really good positives come out of the last year. So on the next slide, probably the biggest thing we're the most excited about it is with that growth I showed earlier. We had a lot of our funders stay on board to help fund and launch the We Energy STEM Center at MSOE. So if you're familiar with our campus, we sit on the north side of the Viets Field, soccer field, and parking structure. This was originally 10,000 square feet of storefront space that had not yet been utilized on our campus. And so we're fortunate that that full 10,000 square feet is now a STEM center dedicated facility for all of our outreach programs. So we opened in September of 2020, which has actually been perfect timing. Our prior model, my staff and I would wheel carts from a storage closet, convert a collegiate classroom between classes to host a group, run an activity, clean everything up, and try and sneak out before the class got in. And it did work, but as you can imagine, with all the safety procedures and policies we've had with the pandemic, we truly would not have been able to do anything in person this year just because of that cleanup time between uses. So we've been able to continue virtual programs as well as limited in-person programming the last year. On the next slide, I have a photo of the very first program, STEM to Stern. So when I talk about partnership programs, this is a partnership between the Milwaukee Rowing Club and the MSOE rowing team. They work with 3 Central City middle schools. They pick up the students right after school, bring them to the STEM Center, where they engage in a hands-on STEM activity, which this year has been robotics. They then get swimming lessons, because a lot of the students don't know how to swim, and then they get to be a part of a rowing team. And at the end of this big block of time every day, they're dropped back off in front of their house. So it's a really unique and special program and highlights one of the things we've been able to continue during the pandemic. On the next slide, there's another photo of kind of what our programs have looked like this year. We've still been able to run programs safely and distance because we have the space in the classrooms. So a lot of our programs look like this. Our staff members are working one-on-one with students, even though they're in a larger classroom as a group. And they're doing hands-on activities in less shared equipment than usual. So this is an example of a program for elementary school students we ran 6 sessions of, where students learned how to 3D model and print, and then learned circuitry to light up their buildings. You can kind of see the students building mock-up here to create a city. So integrating a couple different pieces of STEM and then talking about architecture and electrical engineering as 2 fields related to this activity. Now on the next slide, the last photo I have is a program that we got to run, but also kind of a testament to what the STEM Center allows us to do that we weren't able to previously. Since we were sneaking in and out, I shouldn't say sneaking, using classrooms. Everyone's really excited about our STEM outreach here, and it's something everyone gets behind. But activities like this were a hard sell to go into a university lab to run a candy chemistry activity. We had 20 kids doing chemistry with Skittles, Snickers, 7-Up. It's pretty messy, takes a lot to set up, but it's a lot of fun. The professor you see in the tie-dye lab coat is actually one of our chemistry professors here on campus. It was a really well-loved activity, but having the center allowed us to have the space to conduct this, allowed us to also take the extra hour to set up this lab for the students so that they could work. And I think next year, as we go into hopefully less restricted programming with pandemic safety precautions, we'll be able to do more of this and really use the center to its full capacity. Next slide. So the question I get a lot is, how can we get involved? We're launching a new time counts hub. This was one of the things we've been wanting to do for a while, and with a little less programming and a little more time for administrative items, we've been able to do this. So this hub allows you to see all the opportunities available. Right now, we're still loading it, but I wanted to share the link while I was speaking with you all. 2 opportunities that are live are, there's a guest speaker sign up bank, so you can submit your name, what you're excited about, what you'd like to share with students, and we'll keep that as a repository. So when we have opportunities where we need guest speakers, I can go to that list and see who we have on deck that would like to share their opportunities and experiences with students. We also have a facility tours link that's live in there. So if you have a facility in the Milwaukee region that you would like to offer up as a tour, as a field trip for one of our programs or for visiting schools, you can share your information there so we can connect with you if an opportunity comes up. And then in mid-May, we'll load our next school year's opportunities as well. And my contact information is here if you'd like to reach out at any time to talk more about our programs. So I could talk at length and try to go through it pretty quick here. And then lastly, on my last slide, MSOE is helping lead the launch of the Greater Milwaukee STEM ecosystem. So STEM ecosystems are a national effort run through TIES. And we were accepted in December of 2020 as a region. There was a small application team that kind of put our city forward after being invited to apply. There was a landscape analysis that took place that I know a handful of you from names I recognize participated in, to really get a feel for what does STEM outreach look like in our region. That wrapped up in February. We got the results from TIES in March, and we've been working on a share out session for the last few months. There'll be a share out in May. Right now, the invite's gone out to those who participated in the survey, but there may be a wider link available if we have the space in our call. Otherwise, in late May, early June, there'll be a public sharing of what that landscape analysis said, as well as what some of the next steps look like for the STEM ecosystem, because they look totally different nationwide. Some are independent nonprofits and others are community-led efforts. So you can use this bit.ly link to sign up for any updates. Otherwise, I've talked with Mike Harrison from BioForward about sharing a little more information when we have it. And that's all. So thank you so much again for your support in making STEM possible here at MSOE.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth. That was great. My name is Josh Carson, and I'm an associate in the Ventures Group at the Wisconsin Alumni Research Foundation, and I'm also part of the BioForward board. WARF serves the biohealth industry by patenting and licensing innovations created at UW-Madison, as well as directly investing in companies that are developing those inventions into products, including working with Stratatech beginning almost 20 years ago prior to their acquisition. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Alan Comer, Senior Director of Research, Strategy, and Innovation at Mallinckrodt Pharmaceuticals at Stratatech. He will be telling us today about Stratatech's innovative product that will change lives in Wisconsin and beyond. Thank you, Dr. Comer. Take it away.
Great. Thank you for that introduction, and thank you for the chance to tell you about the work that we've been doing to develop Stratagraft as a treatment for severe burns. I'll speak briefly to the development of Stratagraft, results from our clinical trials, and then provide an update on where we are with FDA review. So next slide, please. One forward, please. Thank you. So our story began with the discovery of Nix keratinocytes in the laboratory of Dr. Lynn Allen Hoffman at UW-Madison. So Nix cells are a long-lived strain of human keratinocyte progenitors that retain the properties of primary keratinocytes. Nix cells undergo epidermal differentiation in organotypic culture to form a three-dimensional skin construct. Nick cells are non-tumorigenic and free of detectable adventitious agents. The Nick cells were patented by Wharf and licensed to Stratatech. Stratatech was founded in 2000, and we were acquired by Mallinckrodt Pharmaceuticals in 2016. Our labs and offices are in the University Research Park, and we recently renovated a manufacturing facility in the Research Park for commercial manufacturing of Stratigraft. Next, please. Stratigraft is a bilayered skin construct composed of two human cell types. The epidermal layer is composed of fully stratified Nix keratinocytes, while the dermal layer contains human dermal fibroblasts embedded in a collagen-rich extracellular matrix. The viable keratinocytes and fibroblasts provide a sustained source of wound healing factors. The format of Stratigraft was designed to facilitate use in a surgical setting. Stratigraft is produced in a rectangular format of 100 square centimeters and is cryopreserved to enable long-term storage with a current shelf life of 18 months. It has handling characteristics similar to standard skin grafts and can be meshed and then sutured or stapled into the burn wound. Stratigraft is being developed as an alternative to autografting of severe burns, and its development was supported in part by federal funding from the National Institutes of Health, the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority, and the Department of Defense. Next, please. Autografting is a common practice in the treatment of severe burns. It involves the excision of a sheet of healthy skin from an uninjured site, known as the donor site, and transplantation of that tissue to the burn wound. Although autografting is effective at closing the burn injury, it creates a new painful donor site wound that is prone to infection, scarring, and long-term morbidity. Our goal has been to develop Stratigraft as an alternative to autografting to spare patients the pain and complications of donor site wounds. So next, I'll summarize some of our clinical data in patients with severe burns. Our clinical trials focused on patients with deep partial thickness burns. In our studies, each patient had 2 wound areas that were excised and then randomized to treatment with either Stratigraft or autograft. This design eliminates the significant variability seen among different patients. Patients were then assessed for the need for autografting of the study wounds and the incidence of wound closure at 3 months. We also evaluated pain of the donor sites, as well as the cosmesis and scarring at both the donor sites and Stratigraft and autograft treatment sites. Finally, we looked at immunological responses and the persistence of DNA from Stratigraft at 3 months. This slide shows the results from one patient with burns to both forearms. The top panel shows the wound treated with Stratigraft, and the bottom shows the wounds treated with autograft. On the left are the burns after surgical excision of the burn tissue, and next to that are the wounds after placement of Stratigraft and autograft. If you look across the top, by day 28, the Stratigraft wound was completely healed without the need for any autografting, and the wound was completely healed at 3 months and remained closed through 12 months. The wound treated with autograft was closed by day 28 and remained closed through 12 months. The key difference was that Stratigraft resulted in complete wound closure without the need to create a donor site wound. This translated to reduced pain and less scarring. Next, please. So we recently completed a phase 3 study of Stratigraft in deep partial thickness burns, and the key results are summarized here. Stratigraft significantly reduced the percent area of the wound that needed to be autografted, and 68 of 71 patients did not require autografting of any part of the Stratigraft treatment site. We saw durable wound closure of the Stratigraft treatment site at 3 months without autografting in 83% of the patients. Because Stratigraft treatment eliminated donor site harvest in most patients, patients reported less pain at the donor sites and also had better cosmesis and less scarring at the donor sites. The results of this study have been accepted for publication and form the foundation of our application for FDA approval. Next, please. Finally, I'd like to give a quick summary of the regulatory status for Stratigraft. Stratigraft is regulated as a cell therapy by the FDA Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research. It was granted orphan product status in 2012 due to the small number of burn patients each year. In 2017, Stratagraft was designated as a regenerative medicine advanced therapy due to its potential to address a serious life-threatening condition. Based on the clinical data, we submitted a biologics license application for Stratagraft in June 2020. The BLA was granted priority review with a target date of February 2nd of this year. However, the pre-approval inspection of our manufacturing facility has been delayed due to COVID-19 travel restrictions. So at this time, the FDA review has not been completed and Stratagraft is still considered an investigational product. We do anticipate the FDA will be able to conduct the inspection fairly soon so that review of our BLA can be completed. In addition to the adult studies in deep partial thickness burns, we are initiating studies on full thickness burns in conjunction with widely meshed autograft and are also beginning to study Stratagraft in children with severe burns. So again, I'd like to thank BioForward for the opportunity to describe our progress and congratulate you all for everything you do to foster the development and success of Wisconsin's biohealth community.
Back on. All right. Thank you to all of our presenters who truly represent setting Wisconsin apart. We thought it was important to hear from the impact being made from a variety of companies and organizations in our state, from one of our biohealth companies that you just heard, Stratatech, to our supply chain company, Teel Plastics. And you know what? It's a really big deal that Dr. Wright was awarded a National Center for Imaging. MSOE's impact on STEM education within the Milwaukee school districts. And then of course, transforming community health through the Healthier Endowment and MCW. And I just have to do a shout out for MCW's President Raymond, who is a passionate leader advocating for a healthier Milwaukee, especially associated with the COVID vaccine accessibility. Now stay on just for a few more minutes because I think you will enjoy hearing from Mia Walters, who participated in MADAM's STEM program. And I love this vision of MADAM, so I'm going to read it. MADAM's envisions a world where students know that a career in STEM is possible for them. A world where all students are equipped with the skills to elevate their quality of life. A world where all students can pursue their dreams as entrepreneurs, developers, engineers, or professors. They are helping to transform the world. Look them up, consider donating. They're here in Madison. I know they've expanded to Milwaukee, just as BioForward has done several times to this amazing nonprofit. Now, we just need to keep Mia in Wisconsin. So thank you for joining us today. Don't hesitate reaching out to BioForward staff or our board members so we can better serve you. Give us your ideas, help us think differently, and like MADAM, help us transform Wisconsin. Thank you to our sponsors for this event, Ideal Builders and Findorf, and then our medallion sponsors, Fisher Scientific, Catalent, Exact Sciences, GE Healthcare, Mallinckrodt, Promega, and Wharf. Stay well, everyone. I hope to see you in person soon. Hold October 7th for our summit and hopefully celebrating in person at the Overture Center. And now let's end with an amazing student, Mia Walters. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mia Walters, and I have been at MADAM for about 3 years now. When I was around 8 years old, my father introduced me to STEM, specifically coding. Together, we began to watch how different video games and websites were made. This boosted my interest even more. In the summer of 2019, I joined the MADAM's web development program, and through there, I felt a very strong connection. MADAM taught me how to code a website, and because of this program, it has given me so many opportunities. For example, I was able to create a website with a few other students for an organization called the Foundations for Black Women's Wellness. And I'm very excited to be working with them in the near future. I hope you all have an amazing day. Bye-bye.